Welcome back to English Without Limit. I'm Julia, and today you are stepping into one of the most powerful, immersive listening experiences you will ever find at the C2 level. But before we begin, I want you to imagine something with me. Picture yourself sitting in a cozy cafe in Boston or New York. Around you, real native speakers are having real conversations. Fast, natural, spontaneous. You can hear their voices overlap, pause, shift from one idea to another. Some speak clearly, some speak quickly, some mumble, some use idioms you have never heard before. But instead of feeling lost, you suddenly understand every word. You follow every nuance. You catch every detail. You are not just listening to English, you are living it. That is exactly what this training is designed to help you do. In this first segment, I want to pull you directly into the real world of English as it is spoken in everyday life. Not textbook English, not scripted English, not simplified English, but authentic, natural, unscripted English that native speakers use with one another when they are relaxed, emotional, tired, excited, or rushed. And here's the best part. I have built this lesson in a way that even new English learners can follow. The explanations are simple. The language is clear. The progression is smooth. So no matter your level, you will understand the meaning behind the conversation, and you will improve your listening skills faster than ever. Before we dive into the first real-life conversation, let me prepare your mind for what you're about to hear. When it comes to advanced listening, the biggest challenge is not vocabulary. It is not grammar. It is not even pronunciation. The true challenge is processing English at the natural speed of thought, not the artificial speed of a textbook. Native speakers connect sounds. They drop sounds. They interrupt each other. They change direction in the middle of a sentence. They speak emotionally, casually, and sometimes without structure. And that is exactly why you will hear all of those elements today. Now, the first conversation you're about to experience takes place in a very common real-life setting. Two friends meeting for the first time in months at a small coffee shop in Chicago. They talk quickly. They jump from topic to topic. They share stories, complain about work, laugh about memories, and react emotionally in natural ways. This is the kind of English you hear every day in American cities, and it is the exact kind of English you need to master if you want to reach a true C2 level. But before we start, I want to give you a powerful listening strategy that will help you get the most out of this practice. When you listen to native speakers, do not try to catch every single word. Instead, focus on meaning units. A meaning unit is a small chunk of information that carries the idea. Sometimes it's a phrase, sometimes it's half a sentence, sometimes it's a group of words that move together like a single thought. For example, when a native speaker says, "I've been meaning to call you," you do not need to process each individual word. You simply understand the meaning unit. The person wanted to call, but didn't until now. When you train your brain to follow meaning instead of words, your listening ability skyrockets. So as you listen today, stay relaxed. Follow the ideas. Do not chase every syllable. Let the meaning flow to you. Here's how the lesson works. First, I will play the full natural speed conversation exactly as native speakers say it in real life. No slowing down, no simplification, no edits. Then I will break it down into sections and guide you through each part with simple explanations, essential vocabulary, natural expressions, and pronunciation notes. You will hear how real connections between words are made. You will hear how certain sounds disappear. You will hear how emotions shape tone and rhythm. And by the end, you will understand the entire conversation clearly, confidently, and naturally. But before we play the dialogue, let me preview the situation. Two friends, Maya and Lucas, haven't seen each other in about 6 months. They meet at a local cafe called Harbor Street Coffee. Maya recently changed jobs, and Lucas has just returned from a trip overseas. Their conversation begins casually, but soon they talk about work, travel, relationships, future plans, frustrations, and personal goals. The conversation flows the way real conversations do: unpredictable, emotional, fast, and full of natural expressions that advanced learners often struggle with. As you listen today, pay attention to three things. First, the rhythm. Every native speaker has a unique rhythm, and rhythm helps you understand meaning. Second, the emotional shifts. Notice when the voice rises, falls, softens, or speeds up. These emotional changes often carry more meaning than the words themselves. Third, the transitions between topics. Native speakers rarely announce topic changes. They simply shift. Learning to recognize these shifts will make you more fluent in real conversations. Now, take a deep breath. Relax your shoulders. Let your mind open. You are about to step into the first real-life native conversation of this training. Remember, your goal is not perfection. Your goal is exposure, immersion, growth. Let's begin with the full conversation. Natural speed, no interruptions. Before we break the conversation down, I want you to hear it one more time. This repetition is important because your brain needs exposure before analysis. The more you hear natural English, the faster it becomes familiar and the faster you absorb patterns without even noticing. Now that you have heard the conversation twice, let's begin our deep dive analysis. We will work through the first major section of the dialogue line by line, idea by idea. This is advanced listening training, but I will explain everything in simple English so learners of all levels can benefit. Here is Maya's opening line. Maya: Lucas, oh my gosh, I cannot believe it's actually you. How long has it been? 5 months? 6? Let's slow this down and examine what is happening. Notice how Maya's voice rises quickly at the beginning. She is surprised. She did not expect to run into Lucas at the cafe. This is a common tone among native speakers when they unexpectedly meet someone they know. Maya does not pronounce every word separately. She connects them in natural speech. I can't believe it's actually you becomes something closer to I can't believe it's actually you. This blending creates one long meaning unit. Now, here is Lucas's reply. Maya, wow, it's really you. I think the last time we saw each other was sometime in the spring, maybe late April. Notice the warm, slightly amused tone. Native speakers express emotion through pacing, pauses, and pitch just as much as through actual words. He says sometime in the spring, meaning he does not remember the exact date, and late April, meaning the final part of the month. Next, Maya responds with a natural American expression. I know, right? Time has been moving so fast lately. I feel like the last few months just disappeared. But seriously, sit down. Tell me everything. How have you been? I know, right? Is extremely common when two people strongly agree. Time has been moving so fast lately is not about literal speed, it's about feeling busy or overwhelmed. The last few months just disappeared is a metaphor native speakers use all the time. But seriously, signals a shift to a more focused conversation. This is how native speakers change topics naturally. Now, Lucas continues. I've been good. Honestly, a little tired because the trip back from Tokyo was long and I'm still dealing with the time difference. But overall, things have been pretty great. Work has been busy, but in a good way. Honestly shows sincerity. Dealing with the time difference is another way to express I'm jet lagged. Busy, but in a good way, is common in American work culture. Then Maya reacts emotionally. Tokyo? Wait, you actually went? I remember you telling me about it months ago, but I thought you were still planning. How was it? Tell me everything. What did you do? What did you see? This fast, excited chain of questions is typical in real conversations. The rising tone communicates emotion as much as the words do. Now, Lucas begins a longer explanation. Yeah, I finally went. Honestly, it was incredible. Tokyo is like this mix of ultra modern energy and really peaceful traditions. One minute you're standing in front of a temple that's hundreds of years old, and the next minute you're surrounded by neon lights and crowds of people moving faster than you can even process. It's intense, but in a good way. This blend of description, emotion, contrast, and imagery is exactly how native speakers tell stories. The phrase, like this mix of, is extremely common in natural descriptions. It means the place combines two opposite or contrasting qualities. Here, Lucas is describing the balance between modern and traditional elements. For learners, this is a useful phrase to adopt because it makes your own English sound more natural. Next, he gives a vivid example. One minute you're standing in front of a temple that's hundreds of years old, and the next minute you're surrounded by neon lights and crowds of people moving faster than you can even process. It's intense, but in a good way. This is an excellent example of descriptive storytelling. Notice how he uses 1 minute and the next minute to show contrast. He doesn't literally mean the situation changed in 60 seconds. He means Tokyo has extreme variety and you can experience very different environments in a short amount of time. Also, notice the phrase, moving faster than you can even process. This means the environment is so dynamic or energetic that it feels overwhelming. Native speakers love to use expressions involving mental processing, like, I can't process this. I'm still processing. It was too much to process. You will hear them often in emotional conversations. Now, Lucas ends that section with, it's intense, but in a good way. This is similar to what he said earlier about work. Native speakers often balance descriptions by clarifying whether something was positive or negative. Here, intense could sound stressful, so he immediately adds, but in a good way, to show he enjoyed it. Now, let's look at Maya's reaction, which is a perfect example of natural conversational engagement. That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to go to Japan, but I never really had the chance. I imagine the culture shock must be huge at first. Did you feel overwhelmed or did you get used to it quickly? Here we have several useful expressions. First, that sounds amazing. This is a universal response that expresses interest and enthusiasm. Next, she says, I've always wanted to go to Japan, but I never really had the chance. This structure is extremely common in spoken English. I've always wanted to expresses a long-term desire. I never really had the chance means she lacked time, money, or opportunity. Native speakers often leave reasons unstated when they feel the meaning is obvious. Then she uses culture shock, an expression describing the surprise or confusion someone feels when encountering a very different culture. Finally, she asks, did you feel overwhelmed or did you get used to it quickly?
This is a classic two-choice question used to gently guide someone into sharing more.
Now we move on to Lucas's reply. Honestly, the first day was a little overwhelming. Everything felt unfamiliar. The sounds, the signs, the pace, even the way people moved through the stations. But after a couple of days, something shifted. I started to relax. I started to feel like I could navigate things. And by the end of the trip, I felt completely comfortable. Here, Lucas uses very emotional, relatable language. Everything felt unfamiliar. This is powerful, more emotional than saying I didn't know anything. Then he lists examples: the sounds, the signs, the pace, even the way people moved. Listing adds detail without becoming too structured. The phrase, even the way people moved, adds emphasis and highlights cultural nuance. Next, he says, but after a couple of days, something shifted. I started to relax. I started to feel like I could navigate things. And by the end of the trip, I felt completely comfortable. A classic conclusion to a travel story, challenging at first, rewarding in the end. Now we move to Maya's next response. That's really inspiring. I mean it. It sounds like the kind of experience that changes you a little. You know, travel does that. It forces you out of your routine, out of your comfort zone, and suddenly you see everything differently. Do you feel like it changed you in any way? This section is full of meaningful expressions. I mean it adds sincerity. The kind of experience that common in reflective conversations. A little softens emotional statements to make them feel natural. Then she uses two major expressions: routine, daily habits; comfort zone, the emotional space where everything feels safe and predictable. And she ends with a reflective question. Do you feel like it changed you in any way? This invites a deep, personal answer. Now we look at Lucas's response. Yeah, actually I do. It made me realize how much I rely on predictability. At home, everything is familiar. I know exactly what to expect every day. But being in a totally different environment made me recognize how rigid my habits have become. I didn't think of myself that way before, but I guess I've been living pretty safely. Key expressions. Actually adds a hint of surprise. Predictability, knowing what will happen. Everything is familiar. Nothing is new or challenging. Rigid habits, inflexible patterns. I didn't think of myself that way before. Self-discovery, living pretty safely, avoiding risks or discomfort. Very natural, emotionally honest language. Now Maya responds with empathy. I think a lot of us do that without realizing it. Life gets busy and we fall into routines because they make everything easier. But sometimes those routines start to limit us. And honestly, hearing you talk about your trip makes me realize how long it's been since I did something brave or new. Useful patterns. A lot of us. Creates emotional connection. Life gets busy. Extremely common expression. We fall into routines, slip into predictable patterns. Those routines start to limit us. Restrict growth. Makes me realize. Natural cause and effect structure. Brave or new. Adds emotional depth. Then Lucas responds with curiosity. Really? What do you mean? Has something been stopping you, or have you just been focusing on other things? These gentle, open-ended questions give Maya space to express herself. Now Maya opens up. I think it's a mix of both. Life has been a lot lately. Work has taken over more than I expected, and I guess I've been putting my energy into things that don't really give anything back. I keep telling myself I'll take time off, or I'll start something new, or I'll take a risk. But then another month goes by and I'm in the exact same place. Natural emotional language, a mix of both, balanced natural answer. Life has been a lot lately, emotional heaviness. Work has taken over, work dominating life. Putting my energy into things that don't give anything back. Burnout. I keep telling myself internal promises. Another month goes by, time slipping away. The exact same place, no progress. Native speakers use a mix of both when explaining a situation influenced by multiple factors. Next, Sarah says, life has been a lot lately. Notice the pause, the hesitation. The phrase a lot here doesn't refer to quantity. It means emotionally heavy, overwhelming, or intense. This expression is extremely common in modern spoken English. When someone says, it's been a lot, they are expressing emotional strain without going into painful detail. Then she continues, work has taken over more than I expected. The expression taken over means work has consumed her time, attention, and energy. This is a common feeling in fast-paced work environments, especially in the United States, where people often talk about struggling with work-life balance. Next, she says, I guess I've been putting my energy into things that don't really give anything back. This is an emotionally intelligent phrase. Give anything back doesn't refer to a physical return. It refers to emotional fulfillment, personal satisfaction, or joy. Many native speakers express frustration this way, especially when they feel drained or stuck. Then she continues, I keep telling myself I'll take time off, or I'll start something new, or I'll take a risk. But then another month goes by and I'm in the exact same place. This is a powerful sentence. It expresses the feeling of time passing without progress. Native speakers often talk like this about periods of stagnation, using phrases like, another month goes by, nothing changes. I'm still stuck. Alex listens carefully, and his response shows empathy and understanding without rushing to give solutions. He says, I get that. Really, I do. It's so easy to fall into that cycle, especially when everything feels urgent all the time. You wake up, you work, you come home, you're tired, and the next thing you know, months have disappeared. But I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. You've always been someone who thinks deeply about life, even when you don't feel like you're moving forward. This section shows supportive, emotionally aware language. Let's break it down. He begins with, I get that. Really, I do. This short expression shows he understands and cares. Repeating, really, I do, emphasizes sincerity. Next, he says, it's so easy to fall into that cycle, especially when everything feels urgent all the time. You wake up, you work, you come home, you're tired, and the next thing you know, months have disappeared. Next, Alex shifts to encouragement. But I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. This means she's being too hard on herself or not recognizing her strengths. Finally, he says, you've always been someone who thinks deeply about life, even when you don't feel like you're moving forward. Now Sarah's next response becomes more vulnerable, honest, and introspective. She says, I appreciate you saying that. I really do. But I think somewhere along the way, I got scared of failing. I used to be so brave. I used to try new things without overthinking everything. But now I second guess myself all the time. I worry about wasting time or making the wrong choice or disappointing people, and that fear just keeps me stuck. This part contains powerful emotional expressions. Let's break it down. She begins with, I appreciate you saying that. I really do. Next, she says, but I think somewhere along the way, I got scared of failing. Somewhere along the way is used when someone doesn't know exactly when a change happened, only that it happened gradually. Scared of failing is simple but emotionally deep. Then she contrasts her past and present. I used to be so brave. I used to try new things without overthinking everything. Used to is extremely common when talking about past habits or traits that no longer exist. Next, she says, but now I second guess myself all the time. Second guess myself means she doubts her own decisions. Then, I worry about wasting time or making the wrong choice or disappointing people, and that fear just keeps me stuck. Keeps me stuck describes emotional paralysis. Now, Alex's reply sets the stage for a major turning point. He says, that makes sense. And honestly, I think more people feel that way than you realize. But maybe the fact that you're thinking about it now means you're ready for a change. Sometimes awareness is the first step. This transitions perfectly into the next part of their conversation, where the theme of change, growth, and taking small risks becomes the focus. Now we continue exactly where we stopped. Alex has just said something meaningful and supportive. Sometimes awareness is the first step. This line marks a shift in the emotional rhythm of the conversation. Up to now, both Sarah and Alex have been reflecting on past habits, missed opportunities, and personal fears. But from this moment on, the dialogue begins shifting toward possibility and gentle encouragement. Here is Sarah's next response. I hope you're right, because lately I've been feeling this pull, like I'm supposed to be doing something different, or maybe just living in a way that feels more like me. But then I start questioning everything. What if I make the wrong move? What if I can't handle the change? What if I'm imagining something that isn't realistic? This section is rich in emotional nuance. She begins with, I hope you're right, hopeful and vulnerable. Next, I've been feeling this pull. A pull is metaphorical. It represents an emotional or intuitive feeling drawing her towards something new. Then she says she wants to live in a way that feels more like me. This refers to living in alignment with her true values. Next, she says, but then I start questioning everything. A common emotional cycle, desire for change followed by doubt. Her what if questions express anxiety. What if I make the wrong move? What if I can't handle the change? What if I'm imagining something that isn't realistic? Now Alex responds, empathetic and grounded. I don't think you're imagining anything. You sound like someone who's outgrown the life they've been living. And that's not a bad thing. It just means you're ready for a new chapter, even if you're not sure what that chapter looks like yet. Change doesn't start with clarity. It starts with discomfort. Let's break it down. I don't think you're imagining anything gently dismisses her fear. Outgrown the life means she's changed internally, but her external life hasn't caught up. A new chapter is a common metaphor for life transitions. And the line, change doesn't start with clarity, it starts with discomfort, is a powerful emotional truth. Now Sarah replies with acceptance. That actually makes a lot of sense. I guess I've been waiting to feel confident before doing anything different. But maybe confidence comes after you start, not before. Maybe you only feel ready once you've already taken the first step. This shows a subtle mindset shift. Alex smiles and says, I think that's true. Most people wait for the perfect moment, but it never shows up. Life doesn't come with a sign that tells you when it's time. Sometimes you just have to move. even if you're scared, especially if you're scared. Now, Sarah responds again, showing clear emotional softening. You know, talking to you always helps. You make things feel clearer, or maybe just less heavy. I think I've been carrying so much in my head that I forgot I could talk about it. And hearing your experience, it makes me want to do something for myself, too. Alex replies gently and opens the door to the next part of the conversation. What kind of something? Do you have anything in mind, or is it still just a feeling for now? This is where the conversation begins shifting towards Sarah's desires, plans, and potential changes in her life. It opens the door for honesty, vulnerability, and deeper emotional exploration. Sometimes, when you're learning a language or trying to grow as a person, you begin to notice the small ways you've been holding yourself back. And once you notice something, you can't pretend you don't see it anymore. You can try to ignore it for a while, but eventually it catches up with you. This awareness is powerful, so let me break it down simply and clearly. Sometimes your feelings are not fully formed plans. They're just early signals that something inside you is changing. When those feelings grow stronger, they become harder to ignore. And often, you begin to notice subtle habits, fears, or beliefs that have been limiting you, sometimes for years. Holding yourself back means preventing your own growth out of fear or old patterns. And when you finally see this truth, it becomes impossible to unsee it. Awareness isn't comfortable, but it's honest. Many people experience this moment. You realize you've been ignoring that small inner whisper telling you that you deserve more, that you are capable of more. Change rarely begins loudly. It begins softly, quiet pressure, gentle reminders, repeated nudges that never seem to disappear. That's how transformation usually starts. You might tell yourself you should be grateful, that what you have is enough, that wanting more makes you unappreciative. But wanting more doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means you're growing. And growth is nothing to apologize for. People often confuse comfort with happiness. Comfort feels safe, but sometimes it traps you just as much as fear does. The things that feel safe can also be the things that keep you small. And eventually, you reach a moment when you realize it. You don't want to feel small anymore. You're tired of pretending you're okay with where you are. You want something new, even if you don't yet know what that new is. Not knowing is uncomfortable, but it's also full of possibility. Possibility is where everything meaningful begins. So the natural question becomes, what should the first step be? The first step is honesty, not with others, but with yourself. When you spend years convincing yourself that everything is fine, you stop asking what you really want. You lose the ability to hear your own voice. But your voice is still there. It never disappears. It just gets quieter. And it returns when you start paying attention again. You might not know the truth right away. Maybe you've been focused on doing the responsible thing for so long that you stop thinking about what you actually want. Emotional self-awareness is a skill, and like any skill, it can weaken if you don't use it. So where do you begin? You begin by asking yourself not what you want, but what you've been avoiding. That question is smaller, gentler, and easier to answer? What thoughts make you uncomfortable? What dreams keep returning no matter how many times you push them away? Those are the places where truth hides. Maybe you've been avoiding the idea of starting over. A new place, a new job, a new environment. Maybe it scares you, but also excites you in a way you haven't felt in years. Thoughts that return stronger each time usually mean something. And the fear you feel might not be a warning. It might be an invitation to begin again, an invitation to grow, an invitation to finally listen to yourself. Fear in this context is not danger. It's a signal that something meaningful is calling her. Maya absorbs this in silence, and the atmosphere shifts. There's depth in this moment, a subtle turning point. Then she asks softly, "Do you think it's crazy, wanting to start over?" Daniel smiles, not mocking, but warm. "No, I think it's brave." This is the emotional heart of the moment. And next, the conversation moves from emotional exploration into the early stages of decision-making. What starting over might actually look like for her. We continue exactly where we left off. Daniel has just told Maya, "No, I think it's brave." His voice is calm, steady, and sincere. For the first time in the entire conversation, Maya doesn't immediately respond. She just sits there, letting his words settle into the places inside her that have been tense for too long. After a moment, she finally speaks. "Brave. I don't think anyone has ever used that word to describe me. I've always been the dependable one, the one who stays where she is, the one who doesn't take risks because she's too busy trying not to disappoint anyone." This is a moment of self-recognition. Let's break it down simply. She begins with brave. "I don't think anyone has ever used that word to describe me." This shows how deeply her identity has been shaped by others' expectations. Next, "I've always been the dependable one." Dependable means reliable and trustworthy, good qualities but limiting when overemphasized. Then, "the one who stays where she is." This implies emotional and physical stagnation. Finally, "the one who doesn't take risks because she's too busy trying not to disappoint anyone." This reveals a lifetime of prioritizing others' expectations over her own desires. Daniel listens intently before answering. Being dependable doesn't mean you're not brave. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that the life everyone expects you to live isn't the life you actually want. It takes courage to disappoint people. It takes strength to choose yourself. This is a powerful, deeply emotional insight. Let's break it down what he means. He begins with, being dependable doesn't mean you're not brave. This separates responsibility from identity. Then, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that the life everyone expects you to live isn't the life you actually want. This touches on authenticity. Next, it takes courage to disappoint people. Many listeners will relate. Finally, it takes strength to choose yourself. Self-prioritization is healthy, not selfish. Maya's voice softens. "I've never thought of it that way. I guess I spent so much time trying to be good that I forgot to be happy." This is simple yet profound, trading joy for approval. Daniel nods. It happens to a lot of us. You follow all the rules you think you're supposed to follow, and one day you wake up and realize you don't even recognize your own life. And then you have to decide if you're going to keep living it out of habit or if you're finally going to create the life that feels like yours. This expands on her idea with clarity. Maya sighs quietly, not in frustration, but in release. "So where do I go from here? I mean, if I really wanted to start over, how would I even begin? Everything feels so overwhelming." Her question shifts from emotional reflection to practical exploration. Daniel speaks slowly. choosing his words with care. You don't start by changing everything. You start by changing one thing, something small, something manageable. Big changes are built from a series of small decisions. You don't need a full plan right away. You just need direction. Let's break it apart. You don't start by changing everything. This reduces pressure. You start by changing one thing. This makes action feel possible. Big changes are built from small decisions. A fundamental truth. You just need direction. Direction, not perfection. Maya takes a slow breath. Okay, so if I had to choose one small thing, I think I'd start by giving myself permission to dream again. I haven't done that in years. I've always shut down any idea that feels risky before it even forms. Maybe the first step is just letting myself imagine possibilities. This is a gentle, hopeful realization.
Daniel smiles with genuine warmth. That's a perfect first step. People underestimate imagination, but imagining something creates a space for it. It makes the impossible feel slightly more possible. And once something feels possible, even a little bit, you start moving toward it naturally. He reframes imagination as an active tool. Maya reflects quietly. You know, there's one dream that keeps coming back to me. I've never said it out loud because it feels too big, too unrealistic. But since we're talking about honesty, I guess this is part of it. Daniel leans forward slightly. What is it? Maya hesitates, then finally speaks. I've always wanted to live somewhere completely different, like a different country, a place where everything feels new, where I could reinvent myself without all the expectations I've been carrying for so long. This is a huge revelation. Daniel listens with quiet admiration. That doesn't sound unrealistic. It sounds like someone who finally wants to breathe. And wanting to breathe isn't unrealistic. It's human. Maya looks down. Do you really think I could do something like that? Daniel doesn't hesitate. Yes, I do. And I think the fact that you've been hiding that dream for so long is exactly why it matters. The room is quiet. Maya breathes differently now. Clearer, lighter. After a thoughtful pause, she says, "The idea of moving somewhere completely different used to terrify me. I always imagined it was something other people could do. People who were bolder, more adventurous, more confident. But not me. I thought I wasn't allowed to want something that big. This reveals internal limitations, not external ones." Daniel responds, "Dreams don't check qualifications. They just show up. And the people who follow them aren't always the bold ones. Usually they're the ones who get tired of staying small. The ones who reach a point where staying the same hurts more than changing." Maya gives a thoughtful smile. "I think I'm getting close to that point. I don't feel okay staying where I am anymore. Everything feels too tight, like I don't fit inside my own life." Daniel nods. That feeling matters. People talk about excitement when they think about change. But discomfort is just as important. It's your mind telling you that you've outgrown your surroundings. Maya shifts slightly. So, if I didn't ignore this feeling, if I actually listened to it, what would that even mean? What would I do first? Daniel answers gently. It would mean letting yourself explore without shutting it down. Start small. Look at places you've always been curious about. Not with commitment, just curiosity. Let yourself imagine living there. See what ideas stick and which ones fade. Maya nods. That actually sounds doable. I've been imagining this as a huge, dramatic decision, but maybe it doesn't have to be all at once. Maybe the first step is just letting myself think about it without fear. Daniel smiles warmly. That's exactly the point. You don't have to move tomorrow. You don't have to quit everything. You just have to allow yourself to consider a future that looks different from your present. That alone can change everything. Maya exhales slowly. For the first time, she looks hopeful. You know what's strange? The more I talk about it, the less impossible it feels. It's like I've been holding my breath for years without realizing it, and now I'm finally letting it out. Daniel gives a soft smile. That's what honesty does. It gives you room to breathe again. Maya asks quietly, "Have you ever felt this way? Like you needed to start over somewhere new?" Daniel thinks for a moment. Yeah, I have. A few years ago, actually. I felt trapped in a life that looked fine from the outside, but felt wrong on the inside. I had success, stability, checked all the boxes, but I wasn't myself. I wasn't happy. So I left. Not everything at once, but enough to give myself space to breathe. Maya asks, "What was the hardest part?" Daniel thinks, "Letting go of who I thought I was supposed to be." It wasn't the fear of leaving. It was the fear of disappointing the version of myself I had been trying to live up to for so long. Maya whispers, "I think that's exactly what I'm afraid of." Daniel meets her eyes. "I know. But once you let go of who you think you're supposed to be, you finally make room for who you actually are." Silence follows. Soft. Meaningful. Maya nods. Then maybe that's the real first step. Not choosing a destination, not making a plan, just letting go of the version of myself that's been holding me back. Daniel smiles gently. That sounds like the beginning of something real. And that is where this part ends. At the moment where fear becomes possibility, and possibility becomes the seed of a new chapter. I hope you enjoyed this part of our English practice session. If you want to continue learning and improving your English the right way, then make sure you continue watching the next part of the story. If you want to learn English in the right way, then make sure you subscribe to my channel, follow my English teaching, and practice every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. And most importantly, enjoy the journey. You're not just learning English, you are becoming an English speaker. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to English Without Limit, and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss future lessons. I'll see you in the next practice.